Hello friends, this is Ralph and welcome back to the channel. In today's Behringer 2600 video, I will tell you everything about the trigger modes, the repeat function and the LFO section and the Portamento effect. Please make sure you watch this video until the end because I will show you a cool trick for using the repeat mode with sample and hold to create an interesting synchronized rhythmic pattern. In my last video about the 2600 synth, I explained how to set up the duophonic mode on the Behringer 2600. Although the upper voice jack and the voice mode switch are also located in the keyboard Portamento section, I will not cover them in this video. If you want to learn more about the duophonic mode, please check out my tutorial about it. You will find the link to that video in the description below. By the way, if you are new here, know that on my YouTube channel you will find a plethora of tutorials for the Behringer 2600 which also apply to the original ARP 2600 and other 2600 synth clones. So if that interests you, please hit the subscribe button. And now, without further ado, let's jump over to the Behringer 2600 Grey Mini. So we are looking here at the Behringer 2600 Grey Mini. Please be informed that I have connected an Arturia key step to the Behringer 2600 via MIDI. And that means all the MIDI data is being converted internally into CV gate signals because that's how the synthesizer operates. Okay, in today's video we are talking about the Portamento, keyboard and LFO section. Let us start here with these outputs. So we have here the trigger out, the gate out, and the CV or pitch out. These are the trigger and gate and pitch signals that you can use to send these signals to an external Eurorec system, or you can use them somewhere else here on the synthesizer. And now I want to tell you, please make sure you watch this video until the end, because I'm going to show you a very cool trick how you can use the gate and trigger signal in conjunction with the sample and hold and the keyboard repeat mode to come up with some cool rhythmical effect. So moreover, I have also created a tutorial in which I'm showing you how to use the Behringer 2600 as a MIDI to CV gate interface. I put the link to that video into the video description below. So also in my last video, I was talking here about the duophonic mode. I'm not going to touch upon this in this video. If that is something that interests you, then please check out that particular video. I put the link to that video into the video description too. So now let us start here with the Portamento effect. At the moment, the Portamento switch is set to off. So when we play something here on the keyboard, nothing is happening. When I turn the switch to on, you can hear there is a glide effect. And with this slider here, we determine the strength of the glide effect. Okay, let's move it back to the off position. And now with this red button here, moment, we can engage the Portamento effect momentarily by pressing this button. I press the button. There is Portamento. I release the button. It's gone. Alternatively, we can also engage the Portamento with a foot switch. There is a dedicated Portamento foot switch jack on the rear. I have already set it up here's the switch. So let me start a little arpeggio here on the Arturia key step. And now I engage the portamento by pressing the foot switch. You can hear the portamento or glide effect. I press the foot switch again, and the portamento is gone. Okay, now let us move on to the trigger modes. Okay, there are various ways to trigger the envelopes here on the Behringer 2600. One way is to press this manual button here in the ADSR AR section. When I press this button, both envelopes, the AR envelope and the ADSR envelope, are being triggered simultaneously. And then also, we can use the keyboard to trigger the envelopes. Please note that the repeat switch is set to off, and at the moment, I have set the trigger mode to multiple. Let's talk first about the trigger mode. I have set it to multiple, but there is also the single mode. So what is the difference? Let's start with multiple. I press here a key on the keyboard. So, and when I now press another key while I'm still holding down the previous key, you can hear that the envelopes are being re-triggered. So, when I set it to single, and I press a key, hold it down, and while holding it down, I press other keys, you hear that the envelopes are not being triggered. So, if you are in single mode and you want to trigger the envelopes every time, then you have to play the keyboard in a staccato way with gaps between the notes that the envelopes are always being re-triggered. Otherwise, you better switch back to multiple. But multiple mode has many advantages. I switch it back now to multiple. And now we talk about the repeat mode. At the moment, it is in the off position. We move it now to the auto position. And now when I increase the speed of the LFO, you can hear that the envelopes are being triggered according to the speed of the LFO. And another important point to notice is when I have set the trigger mode to mult or multiple, whenever I press a key on the keyboard, the LFO rate is reset to the beginning of the cycle. So I'm in multiple mode now, the repeat mode to auto. I press keys on the keyboard, and now I switch the trigger mode to single. Hear the difference. In single mode, the LFO is not being reset. I switch it back to multiple, and the keyboard repeat mode to off. All right, so now we talk about the keyboard position of the repeat mode. So I move it upward to keyboard and nothing is happening. So when I press a key, then the LFO is triggering the envelopes again. I release the key, nothing is happening. So I have to press down a key and hold it down that the envelopes are being triggered. Okay, so now let's move to the vibrato effect. And we start with oscillator number 3. We bring down oscillator number 1 and 2. So we are hearing just oscillator number 3 now. So when I now bring in the vibrato depth, the sine wave is modulating the frequency of oscillator number 3. And this is actually internally set up on the other 2 oscillators as well, oscillator number 1 and 2. So you can hear now all 3 oscillators, and their frequency is being modulated by the sine wave of the LFO. And this is set up internally. So then I also have here the vibrato delay. And this is actually postponing the vibrato effect. It kicks in later, according to the position of the slider. So here. The cool thing about the sine wave vibrato effect is that it is already being set up and pre-wired internally. You do not have to patch it. But now let me show you another cool thing. And that is here the external vibrato input. That means you can take another modulation source and route it to all 3 oscillators simultaneously. So for this now we take the ADSR output, plug it here in the external vibrato input slot, and now I press the key, nothing is happening, but when I bring up here the vibrato depth slider, you hear how the envelope generator is modulating the frequency of all 3 oscillators. One thing to notice is if you are routing an external source into the vibrato input, the vibrato delay is not working. You see, I'm bringing up here the slider of the delay. Nothing is happening. But for instance, okay, you can also use the noise generator output to modulate the frequency of all 3 oscillators. Listen to this. All right, so let me show you now something else. I told you earlier in the video, please stick around until the end because I want to show you a cool trick how we can use the trigger out and the gate out in conjunction with the repeat mode and the sample and hold to create some kind of rhythmical effect. Okay, so let us put the repeat mode into auto. And let's generate a percussive sound here. Now we take the sample and hold output signal and plug it here into the VCF control section. I bring up the slider And you can hear that the sample and hold is modulating the frequency of the VCF. But now, the rate of the sample and hold and the rate of the keyboard repeat is running at a different rate. So how do we sync that? For this, we can use the trigger outs. We plug in a cable and run it here into the external clock input slot of the sample and hold. So, and now it is in sync. So when I change now the LFO rate, you can see that the sample and hold rate is also changing. Yeah. And alternatively, we can also use the gate out signal to achieve this effect and to sync the keyboard repeat mode to the sample and hold. So here it is. Okay, let's bring in a little bit of reverb. Use an external delay and some external reverb. Okay, that's everything about the keyboard, portamento and LFO section. If you need more information about sample and hold, please check out my dedicated tutorial about it. As always, you will find the link in the video description below. Please stay tuned for more tutorials about the Behringer 2600 and additional gear that can be used with the 2600 synth. I will leave you now with some more sounds created with a repeat mode synchronized with sample and hold. But before I go, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you again in my next video. Until then, take care, stay safe and peace out. I will catch you in my next video. Ciao for now.